The night I left the house with nothing but the clothes on my back, I wandered, alone on the streets. By chance, I spotted a small ad stuck to a lamp post, seeking a stepmother for my child. No age or appearance restrictions. Must be patient with kids. Room and board included. The room and board included. Part caught my eye. That very night, I dragged my suitcase to the address listed and walked straight into the mansion of the wealthiest man in the country. Later, my ex-husband asked me, in a condescending tone, "Beatrick Chin, do you finally know you were wrong?" A 4-year-old little tyrant snapped, angrily. Wrong about what? My mom is always right in the whole world. The tycoon wrapped an arm around my shoulders. My wife, even if she were wrong, she'd still be right. I'd never imagined that the person who'd put up that shoddy lamppost ad was none other than the richest man in the nation. At that moment, I stood at the entrance of the villa. Beside me was a butler with an air of arrogant superiority. Our master is looking for a stepmother for his child, not a wife for himself. You must remember that our master has excellent conditions. Don't you dare harbor any inappropriate thoughts. I hung my head slightly, my gaze fixed straight ahead. I sighed inwardly. This job was absolutely perfect for me. Let's be honest. Wasn't this just hiring a fancy nanny for the kid? I'd only gotten divorced that morning. The last thing I wanted right now was to remarry. But taking care of a child meant having a roof over my head so I wouldn't have to spend money on rent for someone as strapped for cash as I was right now. This was nothing short of a lifeline. I nodded respectfully. I understand. I will never harbor any inappropriate thoughts. The butler nodded in approval and led me into the dining room. By the massive long dining table, a young father and son were locked in a fierce standoff. The stern, imposing man held a rice bowl and spoon, his expression dark with displeasure. The sullen little boy bit his lips stubbornly, refusing to back down an inch. Time seemed to stand still. After a long while, the man let out a sigh and conceded defeat first. He sat down the rice bowl in frustration. His long, slender fingers rubbed between his brows. His voice dropped to a pleading murmur. Just one bite, a tiny little bite. Okay. The butler stepped forward. Sir, another applicant has arrived. This one seems quite sensible. The man turned around. Slowly, he was dressed in simple black trousers and a white dress shirt, the top button undone to reveal a faint shadow of his collarbone. The shirt sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, revealing his cold, pale forearms, firm and muscular. I'd seen that face before, in financial news segments. It was far too handsome and striking to forget. After just one glance, just a moment ago, I'd been secretly worried that this might be a scam, but now that I saw his face, all my fears vanished completely. A man of his status had absolutely no reason to waste his time tricking a down-and-out divorced woman like me. The man's deep, penetrating gaze swept over me indifferently. His voice was laced with a hint of exhaustion. What's your name? I guessed he must have come straight from work to feed his son, not even bothering to change out of his office clothes, only to hit a wall with this stubborn little boy. Probably feeding his child was harder for him than signing a multi-billion-dollar deal. Beatrick Chin, I replied. He nodded almost imperceptibly, then handed me the rice bowl. You try. With that, the man stood up, walked over to the sofa, and folded his arms across his chest, watching me with a leisurely, expectant look. This must be the job. Interview. Then I had to put on the best performance possible. If I could get this job, at least I wouldn't have to sleep under a bridge tonight. I held the rice bowl, forced a smile that I hoped looked warm and maternal, and walked toward the little boy. But before I could take 2 steps, the boy skewered under the table in the blink of an eye. Only a pair of big round, jet black eyes, like shiny grapes, peeked out from beneath the table edge. He shouted angrily at the man, "I don't want to tell her to get lost. I won't let her feed me. All of them are bad women." It seemed that before me, the little boy had already met countless other stepmother candidates, which meant I had to try even harder to impress him. I quickly scanned the room and noticed that Ultraman figurines were scattered everywhere. An idea instantly popped into my head. I picked up a few Ultraman toys and placed them beside the boy under the table. I smiled and said in a cheerful voice, "Don't worry, I'm not here to feed you. I'm here to feed Ultraman Tiga and Ultraman 7. You have nothing to worry about." With that, I pretended to feed the Ultraman figurines with a spoon. "Eat up, boys. You need to grow strong to save the world. Kids who don't like eating will end up with skinny arms and legs. They can't even protect themselves, let alone the whole human race. Oh, you want to eat some greens? Right, right. Spinach makes you super strong." The little boy knelt on the floor beside me, looking wronged and neglected, like he'd been completely forgotten. He smacked his lips a few times, but I pretended not to notice. Not until he got so worked up that his little nose turned pink and tears welled up in his eyes did I act like I just discovered him. Oh my goodness, how did this little Ultraman baby end up here? Tiga, can we share your food with him? He needs to eat to grow as strong as you. I mimicked Tiga's voice. "Sure, you can." I smiled and said to the boy, "All right, then, since Tiga said it's okay, I'll give you a little bit, but don't eat too much. Okay, if you get stronger than Tiga, he'll be sad." The little boy nodded his head vigorously. Before I could even bring the spoon to his mouth, he opened his mouth wide and took a big bite. After he'd eaten several more mouthfuls, he glared at me accusingly. "Why won't you let me eat the greens? Are you afraid I'll become stronger than Tiga? You bad woman." I turned to look at the man. The furrow between his brows had smoothed out, and he gave me an appreciative smile. That very night, I moved into the villa. The mansion had 3 floors. I shared the second floor with the 4-year-old Benedict Lee, while Leo Lee lived alone. On the 3rd floor, the butler repeatedly drilled this rule into my head. Under no circumstances are you allowed to go up to the 3rd floor. A while back, there was a woman who didn't know her place. She snuck up to the master's bedroom in the middle of the night and he threw her out the window. I nodded repeatedly, promising not to overstep my bounds. Like father, like son. The richest man's son was already able to sleep alone at 4 years old, which saved me a lot of trouble. The next afternoon, when Leo Lee got home from work, I was feeding Benedict Lee right at the villa's entrance. A dog leash was fastened around Benedict Lee's neck, and he sat on the ground side by side with a big golden retriever. 1 bite for the golden retriever, 1 bite for Benedict Lee. Both of them were eating with great relish. Leo Lee's face turned black as thunder on the spot. "Beatric Chin, what do you take my son for?" His voice was sharp and cold, making me jump in fright. Woof. Benedict Lee spoke up first. Daddy Beatrick, Chin, and I are playing a role. Playing in game. Look, I ate way more than the golden retriever did. Woof woof. Woof 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 woof. Leo Lay's eyebrows furrowed even deeper. He slowly turned his gaze to the butler. The butler wore an expression that was hard to describe as he hesitated and said, "Sir, even though Miss Chen's methods are a bit unorthodox, they're clearly effective." Before we had to chase after the young master to get him to eat a single bite, but this afternoon he's already finished 2 bowls of rice, swearing that he'll definitely eat more than the golden retriever. Leo Lee's face was ashen with a vein throbbing on his forehead, his thin lips pressed into a tight line. He stared coldly at his son as the boy shoveled down mouthfuls of rice, vegetables, meat, and soup with gusto. He let out a defeated huff. The tableware for humans and dogs should be kept separate, I replied immediately. Don't worry, sir, your golden retriever is very clean. It won't even touch the young master's spoon. Leo Lee froze for a moment, his face turning even darker. He spun on his heel and stormed into the villa. Benedict Lee polished off 2.5 bowls of rice in one go, his stomach bulging out like a balloon. He kept hiccuping, his neck jerking up and down with each hiccup. I had to put the leash back on him, take him and the golden retriever for a half-hour walk in the garden, downstairs before carrying him up to bed. What I didn't know was that Leo Lee was standing by the window on the 2nd floor, watching us from above, as he watched his son bark like a dog while racing the golden retriever, laughing joyfully. A long-lost smile tugged at the corners of his tightly pursed lips. The butler sighed repeatedly in admiration. This Miss Chin is truly a miracle worker. The young master used to hate eating, hate talking, and hate exercising, but in just one day, he's changed so much. Sir, I think we finally found the right person this time. By the time I went upstairs, Leo Lee was sitting on the sofa in the living room, his long legs crossed elegantly, exuding an air of undeniable charisma. I unfastened the dog leash from Benedict Lee and was about to take him upstairs for a bath when Leo Lee called out to me, "Beatrice Chin, we need to talk." "Oh, of course, mister." I handed the child over to the butler and sat down opposite Leo Lee, my posture prim and proper. "You're very good with children. Have you ever had kids of your own?" "No, I haven't, but I used to take care of my ex-husband's sister's child for 2 years. Back then, my ex-husband's family had looked down on me for earning too little money and forced me to quit my job. After I resigned, they then accused me of being lazy and useless, so they fired my sister-in-law's nanny and made me take over caring for the child instead." Leoli nodded slowly. "Your file says you're divorced." "Yes." "What was the reason?" "Our families were from 2 completely different worlds." Leoi looked at me with a deep, meaningful gaze. "You saw the job ad yesterday. I'm looking for a mother for Benedict. This child lacks a sense of security. He only likes staying at home, refuses to go out, and hates going to kindergarten even more. I'm swamped with work, so I want to find a patient woman to be his mother. I'll sign a prenuptial agreement with you and will have a property notarization done." I nodded. "I understand. This is how wealthy families operate. Though my last marriage had been a love match, the huge gap in our social status meant we'd signed a prenuptial agreement to So, when the love fizzled out and we divorced, I was left with nothing, not even the wedding ring, which they took back for a top-tier tycoon like Leo. Lei. Marriage was an even more cautious affair. Actually, I'd be content with just a roof over my head. We don't need to get married, I said. Lei insisted firmly. The marriage is for Benedict. I want to find a permanent mother for him, and marriage is the most binding contract. I nodded obediently. Then, well, do as you say. Don't worry. I'll give you a monthly allowance of 100.000 yuan for your personal expenses. This was a point I cared deeply about, having learned my lesson the hard way before. Mr. Li, if we get divorced in the future, would I be allowed to keep the allowance you've given me? Naturally, that money is yours to keep. Then it's a deal. As for marital relations, I have no need for them at the moment. So, you'll still stay on the second floor. Understood. I don't need that either. And just like that, on the third day after my divorce, I got married again, just like my first marriage. There was no wedding ceremony. For dinner that night, the butler specially prepared a few extra dishes. Lioli handed me a diamond ring. I waved my hand to refuse. That's not necessary, Lioli said. It's for Benedict. Oh, right. Thank you for the trouble and expense. That night, I just lain down when Benedict Lee pushed open my bedroom door and stood there looking torn. What's wrong? I asked. He twisted his fingers together, shifting awkwardly as he spoke. Beatrice Chin, can you read me a bedtime story? What? I thought I'd misheard him. Benedict Lee bit his lip. I'll ask Daddy to give you more money, but it's okay if you don't want to. Come. Here. I beckoned. I lifted the quilt, and the little boy climbed right in without hesitation. That night, after we finished reading, Benedict Lee fell asleep in my bed. Early the next morning, when Leo Lee heard about it, he was thoroughly shocked, and his eyes lit up with appreciation once again. Beatrician, you've worked hard. I'll add an extra 50.000 yuan to your monthly allowance. Mr. Lee, that's way too much. Really was far too generous. After all, I'd worked far harder in my last marriage. Yet, when we divorced, I'd been so broke I couldn't even afford a hotel room. I'd spent my days taking care of my ex-husband's sister's child, cooked dinner for him every night, satisfied his physical needs, and even got up in the middle of the night to clean the house, because my mother-in-law had said, we're not short of money to hire a maid, but it won't do for Beatrice Chin to laze around the house all day doing nothing. Even after all that, when we divorced, the Sia family had the audacity to say I'd lived a life of luxury for 3 years. Mr. Lee, this is far more than I deserve. I really like Benedict. He's a good kid, tough on the outside, but soft-hearted. Reading to him is no trouble at all. As I spoke, I suddenly felt something warm wrap around my right hand. I looked down to see Benedict Lee holding my hand, gazing up at me with his big dark, grape-like eyes wide open. Such an easily moved little thing. Lioli said, all the women who came before you only cared about currying favor with me and completely ignored Benedict's feelings. The extra 50.000 yuan is non negotiable, unable to refuse. I could only thank him. From that day on, Benedict Lee stuck to me like glue. Leo was always swamped with work, so most days it was just the two of us at home, until the day I needed to go to the hospital for a follow-up checkup and to pick up my medication. The butler had warned me that Benedict Lee couldn't leave the villa gates or he'd have a panic attack. So, I tried to reason with him, asking him to stay home and wait for me, promising I'd be back as soon as possible. But to my surprise, Benedict Lee clung tightly to my hand and wouldn't let go. He didn't say a word, just looked up at me with those big, sighed, beautiful eyes. The butler sighed. He's afraid you'll leave and never come back for him. I stroked his head gently. I won't leave. Auntie will be right back after seeing the doctor to read to you. Okay, just play by yourself. For a little while, before I could finish explaining, he'd already climbed into the car. The butler asked, anxiously, young master, are you going to the hospital with Miss Chin, too? Benedict Lee nodded silently. The butler's eyes welled up with tears of joy. Heaven has answered our prayers. Bless the Lee family. The doctor said, my depression had improved a lot lately and encouraged me to keep relaxing and staying positive. Before I left, he prescribed a bunch more medicine for me. As we walked out of the consulting room, Benedict Lee asked awkwardly, Beatrix Chin, are you sick? Yes. Auntie got sick because she didn't eat well. You must never be like Auntie. Okay. Does it hurt? His big eyes were filled with worry. If it hurts, I can give you candy. With that, he pulled a chocolate from his pocket and placed it in my palm. Eating candy makes the pain go away. Daddy told me that. Looking at his innocent, concerned little face, tears streamed down my cheeks before I could stop them. During my 3 years with the Sia family, whenever I cried, they'd call me dramatic and say a girl from a humble background like me didn't deserve the life of a wealthy young mistress. When I told them I had depression, C called me attention-seeking, saying I was just trying to annoy him and make trouble for him. Even the little nephew I'd taken care of for over 2 years had called me an ugly, attention-seeking nuisance when I left. But this little boy with his serious, stern face was willing to give me his favorite candy, just to comfort me. I couldn't hold back any longer. I pulled Benedict Lee into a tight hug. He was so small and soft, curling up quietly in my arms, and even patted my back with his chubby little hands. Beatrix Jean, I'll eat well from now on. When I grow up, I'll protect you. I laughed through my tears. Then, you have to grow up quickly. When the two of us walked out of the hospital with red eyes, a low-key Maybach was parked at the entrance, and Leo Lee was leaning lazily against the car. Tall, straight, and devastatingly handsome. He instantly drew everyone's gaze. I took Benedict Lee's hand and walked over to him. Mr. Lee, what are you doing here? Leo Lee picked up his son, and when he saw how calm and composed Benedict was, his eyes reened and his voice turned hoarse with emotion. The butler told me, Benedict went out with you. I couldn't stop worrying, so I came to check on you, too. Benedict Lee lay in Leo Lee's arms, still clutching my hand tightly. Daddy, as long as I'm with Beatrix Chin, you don't have to worry about me. Lei looked at me deeply, then nodded. Daddy knows. That night, Leo tried to increase my allowance again. I was so shocked that I refused repeatedly. Then, he asked, Beatrix Chin, is there anything else you need? Feel free to ask. I hesitated for a moment before saying, could you help me find a second-hand car? Something around 50,000 yuan. It would make it easier for me to get around. Leo Lei said, you can pick any car from my garage. The cheapest car in your garage costs over 2 million yuan. I wouldn't dare drive it. Lioli nodded. Fair enough. Early the next morning, à 50 000 yuan Wulinyong. Guang was parked next to Liu Li's luxury cars. He also invited a psychologist who was supposedly world famous to come to the house. The diagnosis was the same as the hospital's, but all the medication he prescribed for me was replaced with imported brands I'd never been able to afford before. Before the doctor left, he told Lioli, Mr. Li, your wife needs the company of her family. Don't put too much pressure on her. Leo Lay nodded. I'll keep that in mind. The next day, I drove Benedictly out to have fun. He'd always lacked a sense of security. Even the smallest scare would send him into a hysterical fit. So, he'd barely been anywhere outside the villa. Now, I wanted to show him more of the world. We went to an amusement park first, then to a wet market. The little guy followed closely behind me, carrying a live, flopping fish in his hands, his handsome little face set in a rigid, unsiling line. Beatrick chin. I don't want to hold this, but my hands are full of heavy things. Can you please help me? I pleaded, putting on a pitiful look. Benedictly gritted his teeth, holding the fish as far away from his body as possible, looking utterly disgusted. But he said, aloud, Fine, I'll help you this once. And don't buy fish next time. I smiled to myself, hiding my amusement. When we reached the parking lot, we heard a familiar voice call out, Beatrick Chin. It was Henry Sia, my ex-husband. He was dressed in a crisp tailored suit, his hair meticulously styled, looking every bit the handsome, suave businessman. Hearing his voice after over a month, my heart clenched uncontrollably. Henry and I had been together since university. After graduation, he defied all odds to marry me. I'd grown up feeling neglected in my family. On our wedding day, Henry had sworn to protect me for the rest of my life, but after he took over his family's business, he'd started to resent me more and more, seeing me as a burden who could offer him no help in his career. He began nitpicking at everything I did, forced me to quit my job, made me take care of his entire family's daily needs, tasked me with looking after his sister's child, all while enduring their constant criticism and disdain. I'd endured it all. After all, we'd married for love. I'd never felt much love in my original family, either. This was just a different environment, that was all. But then I'd caught Henry at a high-end club kissing a woman dressed in a flashy, revealing outfit. I'd lost all control over my emotions. I cried. I screamed. I demanded he swear never to do it again. But the entire Sia family had thought I was making a mountain out of a molehill, that I was ungrateful for all they'd given me. Which successful man doesn't have his share of women? They'd said. Henry had even told me that my spoiled, unreasonable behavior was all his fault for indulging me too much. From that day on, we descended into a cold war. He stopped coming home entirely, blocking all my contact information. My depression had worsened drastically. The doctor had warned me not to subject myself to any more stress or stimulation. Utterly shattered, Ide asked for a divorce. Henry had thought I was using the marriage to blackmail him. His family had all told him not to give in to my demands, that if he did, Ide only get more and more unreasonable. He'd immediately had his lawyer draw up a divorce agreement, forcing me to leave the house with nothing but the clothes on my back. I'd signed it without hesitation. 4 years of dating, 3 years of marriage, all over in an instant. Lost in these painful memories, I didn't notice Henry walking toward me until he was right in front of me. His eyes flicked over the groceries in my hand, then to Benedict, standing beside me, and finally landed on the Willing. Hung parked nearby. A flicker of contempt crossed his face. He curled his lips into a mocking smile. Beatrice, Shinu, a graduate of a top-tier 985 university working as a nanny for someone. What on earth were you thinking? It's none of your business. Beatrice, why can't you see this? From the day you married into the Sia family, you stopped representing just yourself. You represent the face of the SIA family. Henry Sia were divorced. I have absolutely nothing to do with the SIA family anymore. The mockery in Henry's eyes deepened. Beatrice, after divorce, you're still my ex-wife. When people talk about you, they'll still mention me. Can you please stop disgracing me like this? Can't you think before you act? Stop letting your emotions cloud your judgment. I didn't want to hear another word he had to say, even less did I want Benedict to be contaminated by his words. I immediately took Benedict's hand and headed for the car, but Henry grabbed my wrist, yanking me back. Beatrice, you've been out here struggling for over a month now, haven't you? Are you starting to miss the life of a wealthy young mistress in the Sia family? If you admit you were wrong, truly repent for your behavior, I can consider remarrying you. That woman I was with, it was just a fling, nothing more. The position of Mrs. Sear is still yours. I haven't even considered anyone else for it. As long as you fix that terrible temper of yours, apologize humbly to my family. I wrenched my hand out of his grip, my voice cold and sharp. No need to keep it for me. Give that honorable position to someone else. Mr. Sia, I don't want it. On the drive back, my phone rang again. It was Henry's little nephew, the child I'd taken care of carefully for 2 years. Ide blocked all the Sia family's numbers, but I'd kept his. I'd always thought the child himself was innocent. It was the adults around him who'd poisoned his mind. Besides, after taking care of him for 2 years, I'd thought there was a bond between us. Hello, Jax. I composed myself, forcing my voice to sound as gentle as possible. Bristian, you good for nothing. Divorce? My mom wants to talk to you. Jax shouted into the phone, his voice full of malice and spite. The warm-eyed mustered-up died instantly in my throat. Then Henry's eldest sister snatched the phone from Jax. Beatrice, Chin, I heard from Henry you're working as a nanny for someone now. Do you have any sense of decency at all? What you're doing is a direct slap in the face to Henry and to the entire Sia family. What do you think people will say about us behind our backs? Beatrice Jean, it's no wonder I never liked you. You've always been so desperate and cheap, so utterly beneath us. I hung up the phone and blocked her number too, pulling the car over to the side of the road. I finally let my emotions overwhelm me, burying my face in the steering wheel and sobbing uncontrollably. I don't know how long I cried. By the time the long-suppressed sadness and anger had finally subsided a little, I sat up exhausted and drained. A deep sense of powerlessness washed over me. Beatrice Chin, here's a tissue. Wipe your face. Benedict's voice suddenly cut through the silence. Ide, completely forgotten he was still sitting in the back seat, strapped into his car seat. Now he was staring at me with wide eyes, a crumpled tissue held out in his small hand. I'm sorry, scared you, didn't I asked, forcing a smile to my lips. The butler had repeatedly warned me that Benedict Couldn't handle stress or strong emotions. I was terrified the scene with. Henry had traumatized him, but Benedict shook his head slowly. Beatrician, I'm not scared. You can cry as long as you want. I'll wait for you. Adults crying isn't embarrassing. I won't laugh at you. His innocent childish words made me laugh through my tears. Thank you, you little sweetheart. Auntie's done crying. Now, no more tears from now on. Let's go home. That night, feeling emotionally drained, I went back to my room early. A soft knock sounded on my door. Beatrix, Chin, may I come in? Who is Leo Lee? I just finished showering. My hair still damp. I quickly adjusted my bathrobe, making sure everything was covered properly before calling out. Come in. Leo was dressed in a light gray silk pajama set, his jet black hair falling loosely over his forehead. Tall and broad-shouldered, he looked far softer and more approachable than usual. He sat down on the chair beside my bed, glanced at my wet hair, then looked away, awkwardly, his eyes wandering around the guest room. I've noticed you never wear any of the clothes in the walk-in closet, he said. They're all too expensive. I'm not used to wearing things like that. My time married to Henry had taught me a harsh lesson. You should never force yourself to fit into a circle that doesn't belong to you, because when you get kicked out, you'll only end up humiliated and broken. Even though I was legally married to Leo, I was essentially just a high-end nanny. What kind of nanny wore limited edition designer dresses anyway? It would be like putting a silk flower on a lumberjack. Utterly ridiculous. Bill looked confused. Is it the styles you don't like? If you don't, I can have my designers come to the house to make custom pieces for you. I waved my hands frantically, refusing. No, no, please, don't trouble yourself. Mr. Lee, I spend all my time with Benedict every day. I have no occasion to wear clothes like that. I really don't need them. He fell silent for a few seconds, then asked, I heard you ran into your ex-husband today. His surname is Sia. Is it the Sia family that runs the medical device company? I froze in surprise. I supposed Benedict must have told him. I pressed my lips together and nodded. Yes, that's the one, but it's all in the past now. He could tell I didn't want to talk about the Sia family anymore, so he changed the subject. Beatrix Chin, ever since you came to this house, Benedict has been so much happier. Thank you. His tone was sincere, his dark eyes fixed on mine intently. Ich hifted uncomfortably under his gaze. You pay me so well every month. This is just part of my job. Beatrix Chin, you can ask me for anything you want. I can give you almost everything. He said it again, his voice soft. Mr. Lee, I don't need anything. Really? Leo fell silent once more, his fingers tightening slightly around the armrest of the chair. Then he nodded and stood up to leave. Lately, Leo had been coming home from work much earlier than usual. Every night, he joined Benedict and me for dinner. Afterward, he even sometimes played parent-child games with us. For a man who was the richest person in the country, this kind of behavior was highly unusual. I couldn't help but worry. Had he gone bankrupt? Actually, I wasn't worried about him going bankrupt. I was worried about losing my 150.000 U on monthly salary. Mr. Lee, why have you been coming home so early lately? If you have work to do, you don't have to stay. I'll take good care of Benedict. Lau picked up a red building block, his expression casual. The doctor said, you need the company of your family. Now, Benedict and I are your family. We have a responsibility to be here for you. Family. Since when are we family? Thought to myself, but I didn't dare say it out loud. Actually, Benedict's company is enough for me. The doctor said my condition has improved so much, mostly because of him. Leo looked up at me, his eyes holding a flicker of an emotion I couldn't quite place. I didn't dwell on it, taking Benedict's hand. Instead, come on, let's go read a story. Kiddo, Daddy has work to do. Benedict, let me lead him away obediently, but not before shooting Leo a glare over his shoulder. I could have been imagining it, but in that one look, there was a hint of exasperation, as if he thought Leo was being hopelessly stupid. Beatric Chin. Leo suddenly called out, stopping me in my tracks. Yes, I turned around, and to my surprise, I saw that the tips of his ears were turning pink. He cleared his throat awkwardly. There's a banquet I have to attend tomorrow night. The invitation says I must bring a female companion. Would you be willing to go with me? Me. I blinked in surprise. Yes, you, he said. It's such short notice. Finding someone else would be too rushed. I can pay you for your time. Of course, with his status and connections, he could have found a dozen female companions in less than a day if he'd wanted to, but I didn't question it. After all, getting paid to attends un banquet. I wasn't stupid enough to turn down that offer. I nodded. Of course I can, but I don't know much about your high society etiquette. I won't embarrass you, will I? Even though the Sia family was wealthy, too. Henry had never once taken me to any high-end events like this, because his mother had said I was nothing but a brainless trophy wife. She's so full of petty, small-town airs. She'll only humiliate us if she shows her face in public. The tension in Leo's shoulders relaxed and a faint smile tugged at his lips. You just need to stay by my side the whole time. Don't worry about anything else. The butler chuckled, chiming in. Miss Chin, you don't need to know any fancy etiquette. Our master is the etiquette around here. Well, I couldn't argue with that. After all, Leo was the most powerful man in the entire city. By noon, the next day, an entire team of stylists had arrived at the villa, a team of 6 or 7 people, mostly foreigners, some in charge of my dress, others my makeup, others my hair. They huddled together, discussing animatedly, looking every bit the professionals they were. It was clear just how much prestige the Lee family held. I suddenly felt a surge of nervousness. Leo came home from work to pick me up. The moment he saw me, a flicker of genuine surprise and admiration flashed across his eyes. Benedict took my hand, puffing out his chest proudly and asking, Daddy, look, how pretty Beatric Chin is. Lao corrected him gently. Call her auntie. Benedict turned his head away with a huff, ignoring him completely. I ruffled his hair affectionately. It's okay, kiddo. You calling me Beatric Chin makes me feel young again. Everyone swarmed to talk to Leo Lee, and the conversation inevitably turned to me. Mr. Lee, who is this beautiful lady? Worried I'd put him on the spot, I spoke up first. I'm Mr. Lee's friend. But Leo replied calmly and without hesitation, my wife, Beatric Chin. A chorus of compliments erupted around us. My face burned all the way to my neck, and I felt utterly awkward and flustered. Leo squeezed my hand gently, leaning in to murmur in my ear, Beatric Chin is being my wife so shameful that you can't even say it out loud. Faint, pleasant scent of wine wafted against my ear. I stammered nervously. No, it's not that. Please don't misunderstand. I was just afraid I'd embarrass you. Leo's eyes darkened, his gaze intense and unwavering. Beatrican, only incompetent men think their wives are an embarrassment. His eyes were like smoldering embers, burning so brightly I couldn't bring myself to meet them. I'm going to get a drink. With that, I fled in a hurry. I never expected to run into Henry, and he wasn't with a female companion. Hadn't Leo said attendance required a +1? Henry's eyes widened in obvious shock when he saw me, and he strode straight toward me. Beatrice, it really is you. I didn't dare to believe it at first. I've never seen you look so beautiful. You've taken my breath away. I stepped back, putting some distance between us. Henry pressed on, his voice softening. Beatrice, my sister calling. You the other day wasn't my idea. Actually, when I agreed to the divorce, I only wanted to teach you a small lesson for your stubbornness. I never intended to really let you go. Beatrice, just apologize to my mom and sister. Swallow your pride a little and I'll take you back. We can remarry. The Sia family's business has hit a rough patch lately, and I'm swamped with work. Can't you just be sensible for once? Stop causing me trouble. Okay. Henry took a step closer, reaching out to take my hand, his tone oozing false tenderness. I knew his tactics all too well. A slap, followed by a sugar cube, trapping naive, trusting me right where he wanted me. But I wasn't that same Beatrice anymore. I yanked my hand out of his grip sharply. Indricia, the moment I signed the divorce paper, I never once thought about getting back together with you. I'd rather sleep under a bridge and beg for food than ever set foot in the Sia family again. Henry curled his lips into a mocking sneer. Beatrice, you still refuse to admit you're wrong. Still as stubborn as ever. It seems you just haven't suffered enough yet. When you finally come to your senses, you can crawl back and beg me. Just then, Leo walked over. Henry's expression instantly turned serious and differential. Beatrice will finish this conversation later. I need to talk to a very important client right now. Don't get in my way. With that, he hurried over to Leo, bowing slightly as he handed over his business card. Mr. Lee, I'm Henry Sia from SIA Medical. I was hoping to discuss your recent decision to terminate our medical equipment supply contract. For the past 5 years, CIA Medical has been the primary supplier of medical devices to the Lee Group. I'm wondering if there's any way we might have fallen short of your expectations that led to this sudden termination. Mr. Lee, please point out any areas where we've disappointed you, and we'll make whatever changes necessary to fix them immediately. Henry bent forward slightly, his smile ingratiating as he looked up at Leo. Leo's deep, penetrating eyes shifted to me. Beatrice, what do you think? Should I give him another chance? Henry's eyes narrowed sharply in confusion. Beatrice, what does she have to do with this? Mr. Lee, with all due respect, Beatrice is my ex-wife. I have no idea how she managed to sneak into this event tonight. She's clearly only here to beg me to take her back, pretending this was some kind of chance encounter. She's nothing but a housewife. Please don't let her trivial opinions influence your decision. Sir, Leo didn't spare Henry so much as a glance, his gaze fixed firmly on me as he repeated, Beatrice, what do you say? I'll listen to you. Henry froze, his face paling slightly at Leo's words. I replied coolly and indifferently. Mr. IA just told me not to get in the way of his important business discussion. So, I think I'll refrain from offering any opinions. Henry's face twisted with anger. Naturally, you have no say in matters of business. You're just a woman of low birth, completely unfit for polite company. I frowned about to retort, but Leo cut in, his voice cold and detached. If Beatrice has no opinion to offer, it's probably because SIA Medical isn't even worth her consideration. Mr. Yeah, I'm afraid there's nothing I can do for you. In the next moment, he wrapped an arm around my shoulders and led me away. Henry stood rooted to the spot, still, looking completely bewildered and stunned. Just then, a man walked over and clapped him sympathetically on the shoulder. Mr. Sia, did you offend Mr. Lee's wife? If so, you've really kicked the hornet's nest now. She's the only woman who's ever been seen by his side. All these years. Mr. Lee's wife? Impossible. Henry scoffed in disbelief. She's nothing but a nanny for the Lee family, based on what he'd seen at the wet market the other day. Beatrix's job was nothing more than driving a cheap little car and waiting on the Lee's spoiled little brat. Did she really think putting on an expensive dress would make her the esteemed Mrs. Lee? Tisk, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. The man shook his head and walked away, leaving Henry behind. At the charity gala, Leo Lay actually bid on and won a collection worth over 100 million yuan in my name to donate to charity. After the auction ended, a crowd of people swarmed around me, showering me with fawning attention and compliments. Mrs. Lee, we're hosting a tea party next week. Would you do us the honor of attending? Mrs. Lee, my husband is bidding on a project with the Lee Group. Please put in a good word for him with Mr. Lee, won't you? I'd never been in such a situation before and worried-eyed. Embarrassed Leo, I ended up drinking a few more glasses of wine than I should have. In the end, Leo stepped in to save me from further persuasion. I'm sorry, everyone, but my wife doesn't hold her liquor well. Allow me to drink on her behalf. By the end of the night, both of us were quite tipsy as we climbed into the stretched limousine. I glanced out the window casually, and my eyes met Henry C's sneering gaze. He curled his lips into a mocking smile, looking at me as if I were the most ridiculous joke in the world. I rolled up the window, then turned to Leo and thanked him earnestly. Mr. Lee, thank you for saving me tonight, especially back there in front of Henry. Leo's voice was low and husky, thick with the warmth of wine. Beatrix Chin were husband and wife. You don't have to thank me for anything. We're just a fake couple for show. Nothing more, I said, dropping my gaze to the floor. You helping me tonight was an act of kindness, nothing more. Lao slowly raised his arm, his long, slender fingers lifting my chin gently, his thumb brushing lightly against my skin, as he murmured softly, Beatrix Chin, what if I don't want us to be just a fake couple for show? Leo had a face that was dangerously handsome and alluring. At that moment, his eyes were dark, warm, and glistening with intoxication. He leaned slowly closer to me, his breath redolent with the scent of wine fanned against my chin. His voice was deep, rich, and utterly seductive. The desire in his eyes was raw and unmasked. They say alcohol loosens inhibitions, and for once the old saying held true. The usually cold, aloof, and self-restrained Leoli was now staring directly at my lips. His gaze, intense and unwavering. I turned my head away, dodging his touch. Mr. Lee, you've had too much to drink. Leo froze for a moment, his fingers lingering in the air, where my chin had just been. Then he sat back in his seat, his expression unreadable. He rubbed the bridge of his nose gently. I'm sorry. You're right. I've definitely had too much to drink. After that, the car fell into a heavy, loaded silence, a strange, awkward tension tinged with subtle intimacy hung in the air. I sat rigidly still, too nervous to move a muscle. Thankfully, Benedict Lee had stayed up waiting for me at home. As soon as I climbed out of the car, he came running toward me, clutching his picture book tightly in his hands. I took the opportunity to take his hand and hurry back up to the second floor with him. That night, after I'd tucked Benedict into bed and fallen asleep, I pulled out my phone and started browsing job listings. Henry had been right about one thing. I had a good education. I really should be out there, building a career for myself instead of just working as a nanny. My last marriage had taught me a hard lesson. Women needed to have their own careers to fall back on. Otherwise, the moment a man decided he no longer needed you, you'd be left with nothing. I never wanted to experience that kind of humiliation and despair ever again. Right now, Benedict still needed me, so I could stay with the Lee family. But what about when the day came that he didn't need me anymore? Although my physical and mental health still weren't quite strong enough for me to jump back into the workforce just yet, there was no harm in learning more about the job market now. Better to be prepared than to be caught off guard later. But just as I was scrolling through the listings, my phone buzzed with a text message from Leo Lee. Beatrice Chin. Bring me a cup of coffee, please. I froze, thinking I must have misread it. Making coffee was usually the job of the mates after all. Besides, Leo had warned me right from the start never to set foot on the third floor. But I bit back my questions and doubts. I went downstairs and brewed Leo a fresh cup of coffee. But when I reached the staircase leading up to the third floor, I hesitated, rooted to the spot. Could this be some kind of new test? If I actually went up to the third floor, would he fire me on the spot? Was he upset with me for rejecting him in the car tonight? And now he was getting back at me after agonizing over it for a long moment. I still couldn't bring myself to take even one step up the stairs. Instead, I picked up my phone and called him. Mr. Lee, I've made your coffee. Could you please come downstairs to get it? Just bring it up, please. His voice came through the phone, calm and firm. Luckily, I thought to hit the record button before making the call. If he tried to accuse me of something later, I'd have proof to defend myself. I was so smart. I hung up the phone, then walked over to Leo's bedroom door and knocked gently. Come in, he said. I had no choice but to push the door open. Our eyes met the moment I stepped inside. He must have just finished showering. He was wearing nothing but a black bathrobe, the sash tied loosely around his waist, accentuating his surprisingly narrow hips. A broad expanse of well-defined chest muscles was exposed. Sparkling droplets of water dripped from his damp hair, tracing a path down his perfect jawline, sliding over his chest and disappearing into the folds of the bathrobe. A classic post-bath scene of a breathtakingly handsome man. It was far too sensual and alluring for me to handle. I dropped my gaze in a hurry, not daring to look any longer. Leo Lee took the coffee from my hand, his fingertips brushing against mine. I jolted back in nervousness. Leo's voice was low and husky as he asked, "Are you that afraid of me? Beatric Chin? Am I some kind of ferocious beast to you?" My face burned all the way to my neck. I turned on my heel and hurried toward the door. "Beatric Chin," Leo called out, stopping me in my tracks. "From now on, you're welcome to enter my room any time you want." He said this completely out of the blue, leaving me utterly bewildered. I didn't pause for a second, hurrying downstairs as fast as I could. When I woke up the next morning, my head felt dizzy and my throat was sore. I must have caught a cold after drinking so much last night and not sleeping well. I was surprised to find Leo Lee already downstairs when I made my way down. He was lounging casually on the sofa, reading a financial newspaper. The most shocking thing was that instead of his usual three-piece suit, he was wearing a black turtleneck sweater and a pair of rimless glasses today. The sweater clung to his body, highlighting his perfect physique and sharp chiseled jawline. He looked like a peacock in full mating plumage. "Good morning." Cough, cough. I'd meant to greet him politely, but a fit of coughing interrupted me. Leo set the newspaper down, his voice deep and concerned. "You've caught a cold. It seems like a mild one." Leo strode over in a few long steps, lifting his hand to press his palm against my forehead. His movements were natural and fluid. I stiffened all over my body, going rigid with nervousness. "It's not serious. I'll just make myself some banana herbal tea, and I'll be fine." To my surprise, Leo said, "Sit down and rest. I'll make it for you." He gently guided me to the sofa, his touch surprisingly tender. Then he turned and walked toward the kitchen counter, his long legs eating up the distance. I had to admit, the sweater, which looked ridiculously attractive on most men, looked absolutely stunning on Leo Lee. Tall and elegant, the way he bent his head to pour the water was a sight to behold. He exuded such a strong, mature husband vibe. I couldn't help but wonder what Benedict Lee's mother had been like to have deserved a man as wonderful as him. After drinking the herbal tea, I worried I'd be a distraction to Leo while he worked. So I went back to my bedroom on my own initiative. I'd fallen asleep for a while when my phone rang, jolting me awake. It was an unknown number. I answered it hesitantly, and Henry Sia's voice came through the line immediately. "Beatric Chin, it's me." I was about to hang up right away when he spoke, quickly stopping me. "Beatric Chin, don't you dare hang up on me. I'm right outside the Lee family villa right now. If you don't want me to make a scene in front of Leoli, you'd better come out here and see me right now." I really didn't want to cause a commotion in front of Leole. I didn't want to drag my messy, humiliating past out into the open for anyone to see. With that in mind, I grabbed a coat and headed out the door. The moment I stepped outside the villa gates, Henry rushed over to me. "Beatric Chin, are you done with your little tantrum yet?" A former Mrs. Sia, working as a nanny for someone else. "You might not be ashamed, but I certainly am." "Indri Sia, I'm not throwing a tantrum," I said calmly. "Beatric Chin, cut the act. You're overdoing it. You dressed yourself up to the nines last night and snuck into that banquet. You just wanted to make me regret letting you go, didn't you? Fine, I'll admit it. I have felt a little bit regretful since you left. Now, I'm giving you a chance to come back. All you have to do is admit you were wrong, swallow your pride, and apologize to my mom and sister. Then I'll agree to remarry you. You won't have to grovel and bow to anyone ever again. Henry, I did nothing wrong. What exactly do you want me to apologize for? I asked completely exasperated. Beatrix Jean, you still don't see that you were wrong? It seems you really haven't suffered enough yet. Henry looked at me with an expression of utter disbelief. I was about to retort when a small, round figure suddenly darted toward Henry. It was Benedict Lee, who just come back from outside. He crashed straight into Henry, his eyes blazing with anger as he shouted, "My mom did nothing wrong. My mom is always right in the whole world." With that, he wrapped his tiny arms around my legs, obediently pressing himself close to me. Both Henry and I froze in shock. This little boy had just called me mom. At the first sign that I was being bullied, his first instinct had been to rush forward and protect me, to defend me. A warm, soft feeling flooded my heart. I knelt down and hugged Benedict tightly. Henry stumbled back a step from the impact, taking a moment to recover his wits before spluttering, "Kid, what did you just call her? Isn't she just your family's nanny?" Benedict wrapped his arms around my neck, pulling my head into his small chest protectively as he shot back, "You're the nanny. Your whole family are nannies. Beatrix Chin is my mom. My favorite mom in the whole world." Then, looking a little anxious and unsure, he turned to me, his big eyes pleading, "Beatrix Chin, will you be my mom? I'll be so good and listen to you from now on. I promise." I nodded, my eyes brimming with tears. "Benedict, I'm already your mom." Benedict pouted and hugged me even tighter, burying his face in my shoulder. "Oh, I see now." Henry suddenly let out a cold, mocking laugh. "Beatrix Chin, are you manipulating this poor kid into calling you mom? Are you trying to use him to climb the social ladder? Let me tell you something. Beatrix Chin, Leo Lei is known as the ice-cold tyrant in our circle. He's ruthless and heartless. If he ever finds out you're scheming against him, he'll destroy you without a second thought." Before I could say anything in response, a warm, large hand suddenly settled on my waist. Leoli had heard the commotion and walked out of the villa. He pulled me gently into his arms, sheltering both me and Benedict under his protective embrace. "Mr. SIA, the last time you slandered my wife, I terminated all cooperation with SIA Medical," he said, his voice cold and dangerous. "I originally planned to find an opportunity to explain to the other hospitals that this was merely a personal grudge between you and me and that they shouldn't let it affect their business with your company. But now that you've shown up here uninvited and upset my wife, I don't think that explanation is necessary anymore." Henry froze on the spot, the sneer vanishing from his face instantly. "Mr. Lee, what do you mean by that? Wife? Who is your wife?" Leo lifted a hand to tuck a strand of wind-tousled hair behind my ear, then turned his gaze back to Henry, his eyes cold and sharp. "Mr. Sia, are you really that slow on the uptake? Or do you only believe what you want to believe? Beatrix Chin is my wife. She is also the mother of my child." Henry staggered backward, looking as if he was about to collapse. Leo turned to the butler and ordered, "See Mr. out. From now on, if any unwanted visitors come to harass my wife again, notify me immediately and call the police." With that, he took Benedict from my arms with one hand, while the other wrapped around my waist, guiding us back into the villa. Once we were back inside, I pulled away from Leo's embrace, awkwardly, taking Benedict's hand and hurrying to my room. Benedict, where did you go today? I didn't see you all day long. Benedict pouted, looking thoroughly dejected. Ugh, don't even mention it. Dad sent me to kindergarten. Clears throat. Kindergarten? Why did he suddenly send you there? He said he didn't want you to work too hard, that he was afraid you'd get tired. He also said he wanted to give us some alone time together. Why would he want us to have alone time? I asked, completely confused. Dad said we need to build our relationship so that you won't leave us father and son behind. As soon as Benedict finished speaking, Leo appeared at the door. Benedict, go downstairs for dinner. Don't disturb Mom while she's resting. Hearing him call me Mom again made me feel incredibly shy and flustered. Benedict leaned in and kissed my forehead gently. Mom, I'm going to dinner now. I'll come back to keep you company later. After Benedict left, Lao stepped into my room, his long legs striding toward me. Are you feeling any better? He asked, his voice soft and warm with concern. He was still wearing that black turtleneck sweater, and as he sat down in front of me, his inverted triangle figure was absolutely striking. I turned my head away in a hurry, my heart racing. Mr. Lee, thank you for standing up for me back there, but please don't let me affect your business decisions. It's not worth it. Leo let out a low, deep laugh. Not worth it? Why wouldn't it be? I mean, I'm not worth you going to all that trouble for. Lao leaned forward, closing the distance between us until our faces were only inches apart. Beatrician, I told you, we're husband and wife. Protecting you is my responsibility, but I hesitated at a loss for words. Let's not talk about being a fake couple anymore. Beatrix Chin, I want us to be a real married couple starting now. Leo said, his gaze intense and sincere. I hadn't expected Leo to be so straightforward. My face burned with embarrassment, turning bright red. Lao laughed again, the sound warm and amused. I'll give you all the time you need to adjust. However, right now, Ide like to claim a small husbandly privilege. Before I could even react, he leaned forward and pressed his body gently against mine. Leo's long, warm fingers brushed against my cheek, his touch soft and tender. Then he pressed a gentle, restrained kiss to my forehead. I held my breath nervously, my face growing even hotter. Leo smiled, his eyes crinkling with amusement as he asked, "Is this okay? Is this pace acceptable for you?" I nodded slowly, then turned my face away awkwardly, unable to meet his gaze. Beatricien, there's no rush. Well, take things slow. We have all the time in the world. With that, he tucked the covers around me gently, then stood up and walked out of the room, leaving me alone with my racing heart. The next day, Benedict Lee was dragged off to kindergarten again, kicking and screaming the whole way. My cold was almost completely gone. Lao Lee, dressed in a sharp casual outfit, invited me to go watch a movie with him. After everything that had happened last night, I thought it over carefully. We were already married after all. If we really could build a real relationship together, that wouldn't be such a bad thing. I changed into a dress and climbed into his car. Leo picked a foreign romance film. It was full of steamy, intimate scenes all around us. Couples were smooching loudly, filling the theater with soft kissing sounds. Leo leaned closer to me, his dark, deep eyes locking onto mine. Beatrix Chin, may I I closed my eyes and nodded. His lips fresh with the cool scent of mint pressed against mine. At first, the kiss was soft and gentle, barely a brush of lips, but then it deepened, growing more and more passionate, stealing all my breath away. I don't know how long it lasted before he finally pulled away. To my surprise, he asked me, his voice husky with desire, was that okay? Was the pace right? I playfully punched his chest, pretending to be annoyed. Lee, I never knew you could be such a tease. He caught my hand, lacing his fingers through mine. I have no experience with this sort of thing. I was afraid I'd scare you off. Who are you kidding? If you have no experience, then where did Benedict come from? Did he just pop out of a rock? I'm home, Leo murmured, vaguely, then pulled me back into another kiss. That night, after I'd finally gotten Benedict to fall asleep, my phone rang again. It was Leo Lee, asking me to bring him a cup of coffee. The moment I knocked on his bedroom door, a large, warm hand pulled me inside. A flurry of hungry, passionate kisses rained down on me immediately. Leo smelled amazing, fresh, clean, and warm, a scent that made me want to sink into his arms and never leave. He pinned me gently against the edge of the bed, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he whispered in my ear, Beatric Chin, I don't want to take things slow anymore. I want to speed things up. Is that okay? I was so flustered, but I couldn't speak a single word. If you don't say anything, I'll take that as a yes. He unbuttoned my shirt with his lips one by one. When everything was over, Lao pulled me into his arms, pressing a stack of colorful brochures into my hand. His voice was unsatisfied. Beatric Chin, pick a wedding planner. I want to give you the grandest wedding you've ever dreamed of. That's not necessary, I said, shaking my head. He tightened his grip around my waist, his tone firm and unyielding. It is necessary. I want the whole world to know that Beatric Chin is my wife and I am her husband. I only regret that I didn't meet you sooner, so I could have given you all the best things in the world from the very beginning. I couldn't help but laugh, amused by his earnestness. When we first met, we didn't even know the first thing about each other. How could we have known we'd end up here? He nipped gently at my earlobe, his breath tickling my skin. Beatric Chin, the moment I first laid eyes on you, I was already in love with you. Our wedding was nothing short of grand and luxurious. We invited countless celebrities and socialites, and the wedding dominated the front pages of every local newspaper for 3 whole days. I teased Leo for being so ostentatious. The butler chuckled, coming to his defense. Our master has always been a man of few words and little fanfare, madam. This is the first time he's ever done anything this flashy. Do indulge him just this once, won't you? I smiled and said no more. On the night after the wedding, my phone rang again. It was an unknown number. I frowned instinctively, reaching for the phone, but Leo stretched out his long arm and hung up the call, pulling me closer to him and tightening his grip around my waist. Mrs. Lee, pay attention to me. Later, as Leo twirled a strand of my hair around his finger, he spoke up, sounding a little awkward and hesitant. Beatric Chin, I have a secret to tell you. I hummed in response, waiting for him to continue. Actually, Benedict isn't my biological son. He's my late sister's child. From Leo's story, I finally pieced together Benedict's entire life story. When Leo was in Junior high. His parents had died in a tragique accident. His older sister had raised him all by herself. Later, his sister had got married and had Benedict, but a car crash had taken both his sister and brother-in-law's lives. Leo had then adopted Benedict and registered him under his own name. I originally planned to spend the rest of my life with just Benedict, Leo said, his voice soft with emotion. But then, you appeared, Beatrice Chin, and everything about my life suddenly changed for the better. Wait a minute. Does that mean you really were a virgin? I asked, my eyes widening in shock. Leo's cheeks turned bright red as he nodded slowly. Oh my God, did I hit the jackpot or what? One day, as I walked out of the hospital, Benedict rushed over to me, looking worried and confused. Mommy, didn't Daddy say you were all better? Then why did we come to the hospital again? I knelt down to his level, smiling as I told him the good news, because there's a little baby growing in Mommy's tummy right now. Benedict jumped up and down, clapping his hands in excitement. Yay, I'm finally going to have a little sister. What if it's a little brother instead of a sister? I asked, teasing him. Benedict frowned, thinking about it seriously for a moment. If it's a little brother, we'll throw him in the trash can. If it's a little sister, I'll play with her every day. Kids say the darnest things, but his innocent words filled my heart with so much warmth and happiness. I could barely contain it, just as I was about to head to the parking lot. A ragged L-looking man stepped in front of me, blocking my path. I reached into my purse, about to pull out some spare change to give him, but then he suddenly called out my name, Beatrice Chin. I froze in shock. Staring back at me was a man with long, messy hair, a gaunt, exhausted face, and a hunched posture. It was Henry Sia. Benedict immediately stepped in front of me, his small body shielding me protectively. I patted his shoulder gently, pulling him to my side. I stared at Henry in disbelief, my voice filled with shock. Henry, Sia, what on earth happened to you? How did you end up like this? Henry burst into tears, covering his face with his hands. Between sobs, he begged me, his voice desperate. Beatrice Chin, please help me. You're the only one who can save me. Now, the whole world knows how much Leo loves you, how he treats you like a precious treasure. Please beg him to help me. He'll definitely listen to you. That's when I remembered Leo had mentioned something about the SIA family's recent troubles a while back. It had all started when Leo had terminated all business cooperation with Sia Medical, then to curry favor with Lao. Countless other hospitals had followed suit, cutting off all ties with the SIA family as well, but Leo hadn't wanted to completely destroy them. So a few smaller hospitals had continued to use CIA Medical's equipment, but then a fatal accident had occurred. The cause? SIA Medical's equipment had been completely substandard and defective. Shortly after that, the SIA group had been hit with another scandal, tax evasion and fraud. It turned out that Henry's beloved older sister, whom he'd always admired and obeyed without question, had been secretly embezzling company funds for years. As soon as the SIA group's troubles had come to light, his sister and her entire family had fled the country, immigrating abroad and leaving Henry to clean up the massive mess they'd left behind. The SIA group had declared bankruptcy shortly after, and all of Henry's personal assets had been seized to pay off the company's debts. I remembered Leo had sighed in pity that night, saying to me, Beatrick, Chin, without even realizing it. You helped me avoid a major disaster. Now, as I looked at the broken, destituta man standing before me, I felt not a single ounce of sympathy for him. Indricia, all lives are equal, I said, my voice cold and firm. You caused that accident because of your greed and negligence. You deserve to pay the price for what you've done. No one can help you now, not even me. Just then, Leo Lee walked out of the hospital, having just finished talking to my doctor about the do's and don'ts of my pregnancy. He strode over to me, taking my hand in his and pulling me close to his side. Beatrick Chin, let's go home.